very much. And a very good evening. Welcome to Time of Your Life. It's the Christmas of 1953. The new Queen Elizabeth is just off on a 6-month tour of the Commonwealth, but Christmas is looking quite good for people back at home. At last, rationing of sugar, sweets and eggs has been lifted. Other things going on, Christmas 1953, well, there was this lady who was fighting the killer smog. Molly Parkin is being a mermaid at the Chelsea Arts Ball. And the Beverley sisters are spying on their mother under the mistletoe. These men are down the garden attacking tortoises. And these people over here have just had the time of their lives at the Gaumont Cinema in Camden Town in London. What was so special about that evening?
Well, the manager came out on stage and he said that we were going to have a sneak preview of a new film with a very new comic in it.
How did that go down?
Well, it went down marvellously. I think everybody enjoyed the show.
I'd never seen or heard of No One Whistle before. I must say I was highly delighted, for sure.
Well, it's the first time I'd ever heard an audience applaud
In a cinema?
at the end of the film.
I mean, it was a delightful film. It's so funny. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, when Norman stood up, they gave him a grand ovation.
What's up? Hey? I'll do that again.
Ladies and gentlemen, Norman Wisdom. Is that it? You twit, I thought you'd gone home for a minute there, you're wandering off.
No, I was hungry.
Right, we're looking at Christmas 1953, a very important time.
Wonderful. Well, it was, you know, it was my first film, and even then the rank organisation were dead frightened of whether it was going to be successful or not. So they had a sneak preview at Camden Town, and I was, of course, at the sneak preview. I remember standing in the foyer. Can I stand up, see? I'm standing in the foyer, and there's people coming in, you know, Earl St. John and the directors and the producers of these big things, and they're just passing by and they're saying, you know, if you were me, the sort of evening. Hello. Good evening. And I was so frightened. Oh, I was in a terrible state. I went into the cinema and believe me, I watched about 2 minutes of film and then people started to laugh. And I remember sitting there, I wasn't watching the film, I was watching the faces, people laughing at the film. I'm watching the faces, and that was the exciting thing about it.
So what was the reaction when it came to walking out through the foyer?
Oh, that's different. You see, well, as my very good friends here now said, the film was very successful, and as I stood in the hall, the shaking had gone, and the same people came out, and, oh, Norman, oh, Norman, oh, Norman, it was wonderful, so wonderful, the bull of showbiz. I don't mean the bull in the
Sit down before you get yourself into deep trouble.
Yes.
We'll see some more snippets from Trouble in Store as the programme unravels, but let's get a little bit more of the atmosphere of Christmas 1953. In fact, the atmosphere was decidedly nasty. There was smog around, a great feature of the 50s.
Special filtering bunny masks are the latest weapons devised to combat smog, which last winter killed 4,000 Londoners in a single week. Ordinary fog does little harm, but smog, a mixture of smoke and fog, has become one of the greatest mass murderers of modern times. Every year, railways, factories and private homes exude 2.5 million tons of smoke over England and Wales. Dogs as well can be protected against the deadly fumes which throw a heavy pall across Britain's big cities every year.
Well, Pamela, you had the idea of coming up with these masks.
Shall I put it on?
Yes, please,
Yes.
if you would.
Well, it has to, you see, and you can breathe perfectly.
Yes, charming.
Now, well, you see, I sewed them in every kind of material, And I made dresses for the girls in my dressmaking shop, and they all said, "Oh, can you make me a bunny nose from what's left of the material, sort of match it in the dress?"
Yes.
You see, and they were 5 shillings each, and
And
I didn't make anything out of it, really. I did it because I wanted to help people, you see.
Well, we're sort of making light of it. It was very serious,
Well, we
wasn't
made it
that-
cheerful because it was a panic time then.
Yes.
You felt panicky in the fog, you see, smog. And we made them all cheerful. And one old gentleman, he asked me if I could make him an elephant trunk, like to curl up in that. Well, he worked out that the smog would take a long time to get right up into the trunk. Well, I did. And yes, he was as pleased as punch.
It's all technical stuff, isn't it? Well,
Yes.
Pablo wasn't the only person at this time who was busy trying to sort out the problem of smog and masks.
This sixpenny halfpenny mask will help to beat killer fog, say 6,000 doctors. The County of London Local Medical Committee yesterday expressed profound alarm at the lack of official action after last year's killer fog.
Dr. Colin Russ, why was smog so bad? I mean, we don't have it these days. What was so special about the early 50s?
Well, the smog was noxious, it was acrid, and it was persistent. Hospitals had to clamp down, no routine patients could be admitted, all beds were reserved for emergencies. We called it a red alert, and really it was very worrying. The ambulances had a bad time getting to see people, and I should hate to live through all that again.
But thanks to your action, the Clean Air Act was brought in.
Yes, indeed.
Which has made smog a thing of the past.
We were very worried, and we made a lot of fuss about it. I'm glad to see that something was done.
Thank you very much indeed. There was a battle of a different sort going on in 1953 when it came round to New Year's Eve, because it was the Chelsea Arts Ball.
As the clock slowly ticks its way towards midnight, 5,000 merrymakers ensure that 1953 will make its exit in traditional fashion at the Royal Albert Hall. Now comes the parade of the tableau. 120 muscular rugby blues, 50 more than last year, are on hand to try and stop the crowd overturning and smashing the floats. But it's all in vain. Here goes the first. With the final score at 1 hospital case and 25 minor casualties, it's welcome to 1954.
Molly Parkin, you were there at the time. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I do. I remember everything toppling down. I was just looking to see if I was on screen because I went as a mermaid. Rather an impractical garment, as it turned out.
I can visualise certain problems, yes. Can you convey the flavour of the occasion?
I was 21. I was still a virgin when I arrived. And I mean, it was banned, wasn't it, for its total immorality. Though White House wasn't around at the time, but some other killjoy managed to put it down. And I was appalled, but totally fascinated by the scenes of Babylonian, and Bohemian filth, really, I thought he was. But at the same time, enchanted, as you can imagine, and really looking back on it, I suppose that Chelsea Arts Club ball did change my life because it put me onto the life that I'm leading now of exquisite depravity, and I'm very pleased to put the blame on that Chelsea Arts Club ball.
I just wonder, are they sorely missed, these sort of occasions?
No, I think they take place every night, don't they? People are conducting themselves in that particular way in their own front rooms, aren't they, every night? When I'm there, they are, anyway.
Well, you've managed to produce a condition in the doctor here far worse than any smog. He's He's going to see his psychiatrist in the morning.
I'm coming with him.
Molly, thank you very much indeed. We're looking at the events of the Christmas of 1953 when Norman Wisdom's new film Trouble in Store was released to the British public.
Will you please cancel those 5,000 dresses pink? Freeman speaking.
Make it 10,000!
No, 5,000. No, for heaven's sake, cancel them altogether, please.
Well, I've all you got now!
You won't have anything for the can. Cancel them all.
I'm delighted to say we've been joined by the Beverley sisters. It was a very, very important time for the three of you as well, because you had your first hit, big million-selling record.
Yes, yes, yes.
I saw Mummy kissing Santa Claus.
But before that,
Very sophisticated.
Well, we worked with Norman quite often in the stage, you know, on theatre.
Oh, yeah.
But the first big occasion we worked together was a gala concert, very prestigious.
The Coliseum.
At the London
That's right.
Coliseum. Can I sit a bit nearer to Norman when I tell
Yeah,
this?
come here.
All change now.
All
changes.
That's how we all say that.
Right, now. All right, good night, everybody.
Now then, do you remember?
Hey, I'm doing all right here, aren't I?
Do you remember
Yes.
when you were in a certain park, Hyde Park, I think, to name but a few, in a car that was all steamed up?
Why was it steamed up?
And a policeman came and knocked on the window, and Norman and Babs were sitting in there. You sat on his glasses and broke them. Do you remember?
I sat on... You don't remember that, do you? We were having a little flirt.
Well, I don't wear glasses.
I said, why was the car? I said, why was the car all steamed up? And Babs said, it because I was fighting him off. Why do you think?
But I thought it was a scene from a film. I was practicing.
But it was really fantastic. You see,
we
in English.
Yeah. We'd been at the Palladium with Danny Kaye and Bob Hope, all the American stars, and it was wonderful at that time to see an English
Being a
comedian
riot.
go from the stage, a big stage star, into the
film
theatre
star.
and become
Yeah.
a big
film star.
Film star. Furore. It was nice.
And I know the thing was when we got back when I got back to stage, you know, that the stage manager was sweating conkers, but it's all right because you know they were waiting to start the second show, you see. But I'd left a notice on my dressing room door. Got the pictures back in 10 minutes.
Well, thank you very much indeed for coming and joining us, ladies and gentlemen, the Beverley sisters.
Oh, thank you very much.
Now, I've already said that there were some very strange things going on in 1953. We've mentioned the smog, but the weather was playing all sorts of really peculiar tricks. There was a heat wave in December. People were sunbathing, and it reached 83 degrees in Brighton, and that was followed by a great freeze. Traffic all over the country came to a halt, and even the sea froze off the Kent coast. And for Norman Wisdom, there's trouble in store.
Oh, no, don't worry. You look very nice, really. Now, where's our big smile? Yes, she's here. This is ours.
Oh, no, I'm going to dance.
Can you tell me where you got your funny little man character from?
Well, I was born in very sorry circumstances. Both of my parents were very sorry. And then eventually, this is true, actually, they divorced, and neither of them wanted me. Don't blame them. See? But I finished up when I was 14, really hungry, walking the streets of London. It's very sad. Walking the streets of London and nowhere to sleep. I was sleeping like behind the Marshall Foch statue and in doorways and that sort of thing. And then eventually, well, I used to go night after night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, to a coffee stall keeper. And he said to me one night, why don't you join the army? But I said, would they? He said, well, try and get into the band, because at 14 you can get in as a band boy. So I went up to Whitehall, to Scotland Yard, and I was taken in the army, and within a few weeks I was in India. I can remember, I'm going to stand up again, can I, Noel?
Feel free.
When I can remember as we got off the boat, you know, we were marching and I had the tears running down my face, and it was wonderful. And then I was put on clarinet, just, you know, doing chuck-chucks. You know what the chuck-chucks are, don't you? You know, I mean, if the band's playing the Blue Danube, the third clarinet sits there and he goes da 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 chuck 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 da 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 chuck chuck chuck. But in any case, it takes a couple of years to learn to play the clarinet, and I thought, well, I must find an instrument that nobody else plays, and then maybe I'll be able to go on engagements. And so I got out of the store an old xylophone, the old triangular type of xylophone, and parrot fashion with the music very, very slowly, I learnt to play a piece called Snowflakes. And so on. So at the very next concert for the troops, I'm sitting there, da 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 da, chuck chuck chuck, da 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 da, and then out there to start, and the big verse and the xylophone, and this was marvelous. I mean, I'm taking bows and things like that. So I thought, oh, cool. So now then, the band used to sing sea shanties as well. But I went to the bandmaster one day and I said, excuse me. So he said, yes, Wisdom. This is in his office. I said, you know, we all do the sea shanties. He said, yes, Wisdom. I said, nobody does the solos. He said, well, we haven't got anybody, Wisdom. And I said, yeah, but sir, I sing. I sing. So he said, oh, Wisdom, all right, then sing. So I sang an old Jack Buchanan number called You Must Say Yes to Mr. Brown, No More or Less to Mr. Brown. Anyway, the next concert, you see, so sitting down there, chuck, 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 and you must say yes to... No, the band was singing, I'm getting mixed up. The band was singing the sea shanties. No, wait a minute, because you're wasting time.
It's all right, don't worry.
So I thought, well, I said, now I'm beginning to get the bug. Now, so in the wash house I go. I've got to come down here for this. Can I come down here? See, in the wash house I go, and I go. And gradually, and then I go into the bandmaster, you see, and I said, excuse me, sir. And he said, yes, Wisdom. I said, what would it be like if somebody did a tap dance at a concert? He said, Wisdom, don't tell me. I said, yes, sir. So then, oh dear, see, wait, hey, jig in the jaunting car, and all this stuff, you see. Well, now then, this is doing a concert for the troops, you see. Now we went over from there. One night we did a concert at the officers' mess. Now remember, I am dancing in army boots and uniform with and to my horror, I'm doing my dancing, you see, almost to attention. And the officers start to laugh. And I'm saying to myself, swines. And they start to scream, like the bloody swines. And then, so all of a sudden I'm dancing, and because I've now started to lose concentration, I went and they scream. So now I've got a liver on, see? So I went, and all the laughter, but honestly, at that time I didn't care, because I said to myself, oh, that's it, comedy.
Well, I'm now going to transport you back some 30 years to 1953 and some of the programmes you could have seen on the television then. There was only one channel, the BBC, but there were some very interesting programmes around. There was animal, vegetable and mineral. There was even snooker in black and white. And there were these gentlemen trying to persuade Slow Coach to help them iron out some bumps in their path.
But Slow Coach didn't want to roll over on his back, and he said,
"Go away, I'm busy looking for food."
And he started to move off. That was no good. So they had to think of something else.
Då not good. Middle tiddle saddle.
But then Bill and Ben heard little Weed calling them. Weed! Weed! And they knew it was the man who worked in the garden coming back from his dinner.
No.
So they quickly got back into their flower pots. But just as they were going to say goodnight to little Weed, they saw it wasn't the man who worked in the garden at all.
Oh, Lord, Pip.
Oh, Lord. It was the man who worked in the television. The man who worked in the television, and he wanted to talk to them.
Hello, Bill.
Head up, noddle, head up.
Hello, Ben.
Head up, noddle, head up.
But Noel forgot to say hello to little Weed. She looked rather sad. Ben saw this and told Noel he'd been rather rude.
Noddle. Vettel rhubarb.
Little rhubarb.
I'm sorry, little Weed.
What about Slow Coach?
Slog along.
I'm sorry, Slow Coach.
Hello.
Noddle. Edel.
Something I've always wanted to ask you, ever since I watched you when I was a little boy, Bill and Ben, it can't be very pleasant in those flower pots. They must be very drafty and you must get very cold.
Oh, no, I'm not very cold.
Bill said it wasn't anything to worry about. They didn't get cold because they were made from flower pots.
Weddle model flopper pop.
But there was one problem that they did have.
It'll claustrophobic.
It'll claustrophobic.
No little flopper pop.
No roop. No roop.
Oh, dear.
Gladys, when you were doing this some 30 years ago, presumably it was all a little bit more serious, being
yes,
Weed.
Yes, Noddle.
Bang it. Now that is going to stick now.
I'm sorry, what is his name?
Adorable.
We weren't allowed to muck about, I can tell you.
We had problems with them, though, because a lot of people used to write in and say that they were influencing the way their children spoke. And, we took this very seriously, but it didn't, in fact, I don't think, make much difference. I mean, my son saw them, and he's quite normal. He speaks like I do. You see, he said... and he's only 23.
Yes.
Happy days, all of you working together?
Oh, yeah.
Doing the flower pot.
Well, we're still friends, so you can see that after 30 years, it must have been a good time, hasn't
Tremendous. Ladies and gentlemen, the flower pot man.
Come on, my pretty. Nearer. Nearer, come on. Come on, darling. Come closer. Come on. Come on. Nearer. That's right.
Lana Morris, what was it like working with this complete maniac here?
Well, it's wonderful to see him again after 30 years, because in 30 years you forget how impossible he was.
Oh, go on, let's have a bit of scandal.
No, he was always lovely to work with. He really was. He was very quiet, very dedicated. Weren't you?
Oh, I was dedicated because I had to be, because it was my first film and I didn't know what was going to happen.
I didn't know that he was carrying the weight of the bosses not knowing whether it was going to be a good movie.
You used to laugh so marvellously. That's what I liked. We were really chums, and she used to...
Do you remember what our director used to do if we giggled too much, if we got unruly? We got unruly.
I remember, but you tell it.
On the set, on the Indian set, we had a little hut made of wood. Just a hut, nothing in it except a bench. And if we got too giggly and out of hand, he used to go, not so silly, he used to make us go and sit in the hut for 5 minutes in solitary confinement.
Your nature, if I may, because you were screaming with laughter, and I started to sing "Don't Laugh at Me."
Oh, shut up, I should be embarrassed. I'll tell it.
Oh, go on.
In a comedy, even as broad and as unreal as that, you've got to be inside as real as you can, more real than a drama, really. And I looked at him singing this song, and I was so in love with him, with this poor little man who couldn't do anything right. I started to cry. And the director said, "Cut it out, God, if you're not laughing, you're crying, can't you just get it right in the middle?" Because it's not Chekhov. But it was a very moving little moment, that.
It's a great story. Norman, thank you very much indeed. We'll hear the song in just a moment, but please join me at the same time next week when another one of my guests will be having the time of their life. Ladies and gentlemen, Norman Wisdom.
Don't laugh at me.
I'm not good looking, I'm not too smart, I may be foolish, but I've got a heart. I love the flowers, I love the sun, but when I try to love the girls, they laugh at me and run. Don't laugh at me, 'cause I'm a fool. I know it's true, yes, I'm a fool. No one seems to care. I'd give the world to share my life with someone who really loves me. I see them all falling in love, but my lucky star hides up above. Someday maybe my star will shine on me. Don't laugh at me, 'cause I'm a
Starting in 5 minutes on BBC2, Gardener's World looks at the special care acquired for some of the unusual and tender plants at Newby Hall in North Yorkshire. Here on 1, part 3 of the light-hearted thriller Jack of Diamonds, starring Dick Emery.